What is up, heroes of Dominion? My name is Charlie. This is Hero War Central, and in this video I want to talk about the various ways to counter the tank Cleaver. Now, before I get any further into this video, you all should know that this will apply to all versions of the game, Facebook web, as well as Hero Wars mobile. However, I'm going to be doing all of the testing and video on Hero Wars Facebook. Now, I don't have any pets assigned, and we are dealing with max testing for the sake of making things flat and even as possible, standardized as possible, but there still is going to be some variations in team makeup. The defending team, the attacking team, all of these things are going to play into whether or not specific lineups are going to counter other specific lineups. But the video that I did a couple of weeks ago breaking down how to counter 3 of the most popular tanks, how to hard counter them even, prompted you all to look for more hard counter ideas, and I thought that I would just continue along with the tanks and move on from there. And we're going to look at Cleave Daddy first. Now, I believe that Cleaver is going to gain in popularity in 2022, along with Corvus, as Aurora's popularity declines. Obviously, that's completely subjective, and I can't tell the future, but since I've already talked about a couple of other tanks, I thought I would talk about this one. And for the sake of our test, I use one of my more common Kark lineups. The big issue with this specific lineup against the enemy defending team, and we're using a Cleaver Peppy or CLEPPY lineup with a couple of highly defensive heroes in Vari, Sebastian, and Martha. The big issue with my lineup versus this enemy team is that my healer is Martha, and Cleaver's got this hook, right? He's got this hook that will reach out and grab the rearmost ally. Watch what happens whenever he pulls my Martha to the front line. Now, Martha's very tanky. She can take a few hits, right? But every time she summons a totem to heal my team, the enemy lineup is just going to knock it over immediately. See, it wasn't even up for half of a second. Now, I'm going to lose this fight, not because of Martha and her totem, but this was just showing the example of why Martha is bad against Cleaver. What you could do instead is you could sub in Dorian. Now, Dorian, even at the absolute weakest levels, as long as he has his skills leveled up, it doesn't matter his overall power level, he has this vampiric aura. So when Cleaver pulls Dorian to your front line, his vampiric aura, which gives vampirism to all allies nearby to him, will give vampirism to your entire front line, your tank, your damage dealer, your Sebastian in this case. Now, you still may not end up winning this fight if you just add Dorian in place of Martha, but this will give your team a better chance. And you can see here that the vampiric aura, well, it's kind of hard to see because of the shielding, but the vampiric aura is being given to Kark and Sebastian and of course Astaroth. It is missing Faceless, which is, you know, unfortunate, but your main tank, your main damage dealer, and your main support are still going to be alive. In this instance, if your Martha is fallen over immediately, try a weak Dorian. You should have a much better chance at defeating an enemy Cleaver team. Now, here's another instance of a Cleaver team, and the reason why it changed is specifically because I don't want to use Sebastian on defense, and this is going to work particularly well on Hero Wars Mobile. A lot of enemies are using Sebastian on defense on Hero Wars Facebook and web, so this strategy may not work that well. Here you see my attacking Kark team, same situation using Martha, and Martha is going to be rendered almost ineffective. She is going to have a little bit of a healing. She is going to be able to tank a little bit whenever Cleaver pulls her forward, but whenever it does happen, you can see her try to summon her totem, and it'll immediately get knocked over. Not a very effective lineup versus this team or the one with Sebastian, and the reason why I'm doing this situation right here, the reason why I use this example is because, like I said, on Hero Wars Mobile, Sebastian does not remove charm effects. So if you are on Hero Wars Mobile or on Hero Wars Facebook and web and the enemy is not using a Sebastian on defense, then you can use a hero like Lian instead of your healer. Now watch what happens when the enemy Cleaver hooks the Lian. It will put Cleaver to sleep because one of Lian's abilities is to charm any enemy that hits her, and she will not be pulled completely forward. Now often what will end up happening is she'll end up being still in the rearmost position, which will render his hook completely ineffective. You can see there, it was kind of paused. It was kind of paused mid-hook. And unfortunately, Faceless is so far back that he's kind of behind her. Now, this is still unfortunately not enough to defeat Cleaver Peppy. Cleaver Peppy is quite the pairing. And what I really like about Cleaver Peppy is that they can really work with any lineup. You can add them to a Twins lineup. You can add them to a Kark lineup. You can do any kind of other physical, like with a Yasmin or a Dante or even a Daredevil lineup. It really just depends on what damage dealers you like. If you have Cleaver and then you want, you know, one of the better combos without having to associate a healer, any other supports, you could actually do 2 sets of combos, 2 team synergies, Cleaver Peppy and then maybe add Kark Faceless, or Cleaver Peppy and then maybe add Lars Krista. But what if you're trying to beat this lineup? That's going to be the next instance that we're going to look into right now. You are going to be required to have a leveled up Aurora and Peppy of your own, but Aurora Peppy absolutely hard counters Cleaver Peppy, and it has to to do with the way that Aurora's Violet skill works. Every time the enemy Peppy's Boldness Shield deals damage to Aurora, not only is your ally's Boldness Shield from your ally Aurora reflecting the damage back, but it's also blocking 85% of the total magic damage that the enemy Boldness Shield does to yours. Now you can see that I have a relatively same lineup, Kark, Sebastian, and Faceless here. I had to drop my Astaroth for Aurora, and I had to drop my healer or my support in Lian for Peppy, but this is going to be absolutely a hard counter to all Cleppy teams. It does not matter, well, it usually doesn't matter who else is in that lineup. There are some enemy lineups that will stymie you a little bit, but the reason, like I said, the reason why this works, first of all, let's discuss the Cleppy combo, and I've done it in the past. I'll go ahead and link in the video in the top right hand corner if you'd like. This Putrefaction ability that Cleaver has deals damage to himself and the enemy, and it's pure damage. If you take a look at Peppy's Boldness Shield, this casts a shield on an ally, and it's usually always the frontline ally, even though it doesn't state it specifically. Whenever the shielded ally receives damage, the sphere damages nearest rivals, and it's magic damage. So Cleaver is doing harm to himself. He's self-damaging with all that pure damage from that putrefaction stat. He has vampirism, so he's kind of healing himself. And not only is that putrefaction skill doing pure damage to the enemy front line, but it's reflecting off of this shield and doing additional magic damage to the enemy front line. But here's the problem. Whenever you go up against an Aurora Peppy lineup, you have this skill right here. The shield partially absorbs magic damage. After a certain amount of damage, the shield explodes, damaging nearby enemies. So this is going to reduce the enemy Peppy's Boldness Shield magic damage to 15% of the total damage. And then of course, since she's taking damage, but considerably less damage, your own Peppy's Boldness Shield is then reflecting that smaller amount of damage back to the enemy front line, but full. Let's watch this fight again and you can see just how quickly the enemy Cleaver is destroyed. It's going to take a second for everything to wind up, and for whatever reason, even though the skill doesn't say it, Peppy's Boldness Shield will always go on the frontmost ally. So there you go, the enemy Boldness Shield is up, and then so is mine, and then Cleaver is instantly deleted. So if you're going up against Cleaver Peppy, and you're looking for an absolute hard counter to that lineup, Aurora Peppy is your team. Now, unfortunately, I'm still going to lose my Kark here, but going up against an Anvari team, what can you expect? I do end up winning this fight handily, whereas the other hard counters failed. And remember, some of the other fights that I showed you, including this one, this is just a small subset. This is just a small example of fighting against Cleaver and you know, using specific attacking teams. There are other great ways to defeat Cleaver lineups. There are other great ways to counter Cleaver Peppy lineups. This is just one example or a couple examples that I wanted to show you that should work on all versions of the game. Please let me know in the comments if there are any other heroes that you'd like to see hard counters to, or if you'd like to suggest some hard counters of your own. Maybe you know a secret way to hard counter a specific enemy. I'd be happy to talk about it in the future so we can get that knowledge out there. Don't forget that we live stream Monday through Friday. I love you all. Good luck in Dominion.